Wherever you go on Earth, the things you see can be divided into two groups: things that are living and things that are non-living. Non-living things are the things that are not alive and were never alive, while living things are things that are alive now or were alive at one time. Let's begin. Some examples of non-living things: the water, the rocks, the air. While living things may use these, they themselves are not alive. It doesn't matter if it's salt water, that's ocean water, rocks there, dried rocks, things we've built out of rocks or shaped, they're all non-living. No matter how tall you make a building, it doesn't become alive. The same goes for fog and weather, as these clouds pouring over the mountains. While mountains may change in shape over time, growing from pressure or shrinking from weathering, they're still not alive. They're made of non-living materials. Not even everybody's favorite volcanoes, which can be erupting and seem to be moving a lot. From the top of a mountain, you can get a great view of the stars, which seem to be moving because of the Earth's rotation. And according to scientists, Pumbaa had it right. The stars are non-living. They're brilliant burning balls of gas called plasma up in the sky. Despite all its different forms, weather is also not alive. It is in the non-living group. Snow, rain, sleet, hail, lightning. Even though it moves around a lot, it is not alive. Let's take a look at the stars of today's show, the living things. After all, you're living, I'm living, and the show's titled Life Cycles, so let's check out the living things. We're going to start small. The smallest living things are tiny one-celled organisms you'd see under a microscope, or growing on your bread if it's a little bit too old. These one-celled organisms are called bacteria, and they can be good and bad for us. Now, getting larger and more complex, we have the multicellular organisms. Little things you see swimming around in water under a microscope. A little bit bigger than bacteria, they can move around and catch little things to eat. And they can make you very sick, so don't drink pond water. Moving down the line of living things, we have fungus, mushrooms. Come in all different shapes and sizes, grow on logs and other things. There are decomposers. They break things down into soil so other things can grow. Some fungus are also called slime molds. Here's a time lapse of one growing. Thank you, BBC One. Here's some mushrooms growing very rapidly. Now, we also have plenty of plants to look at, but we'll get to those later down the line in the video. Next up on our living things list are the insects. You might recognize some like these honeybees, butterflies, or even this guy that I found on a log while I was cutting some firewood. I did not mess with him. Here's some ants. Just make sure to keep them away from your picnic. Getting a little bigger, we have the reptiles. Those cold-blooded creatures that tend to scare a lot of us if they catch us by surprise. We have quite the variety. Snakes, alligators, crocodiles, and many more we'll get to later. Next, hopping up on our list are the amphibians. These living things start their lives out in the water, but end up living on land later on. One of the most popular are tadpoles, which grow into frogs. Frogs aren't the only amphibians, we'll look at more later, but they do come in a variety of sizes, like this tiny tree frog, and colors, each having their own unique abilities. Tired of cold-blooded animals? Maybe this'll wake you up. Next, we have birds. They're warm-blooded, they have lots of feathers, and most, but not all, can fly. They can be on land, air, water. You might even see some, like this eagle, at the zoo, or an interesting kookaburra. And finally, you've been waiting for them, the mammals, the group you know oh so well. From mice up to elephants, we love our mammals. Let's check out some favorites. We have our cats, and if you have cats, you have to have dogs. And let's not forget some of our favorite furry outside creatures, squirrels. Squirrel! Of course, there are many other mammals. Some, like the primates. We even have mammals that ride on other mammals, like these humans on horses. But let's move on to our next part, life cycles. Now we've looked at living things, and cycle just means a series of events that repeats over and over, like something going around and around and around, hitting the same areas over and over again. Let's look at some cycles you may know. We have bicycles. Bicycles have two wheels that go around and around. We have the luggage carousel at the airport, which will go around and around till something happens. Usually we're waiting for our luggage there. Some cycles, like the cycles these kids are making around a racetrack, go a little bit faster, while the adults go even faster around this dirt racetrack. While the steps of a cycle repeat, each step can look a little bit different. Each lap these riders make isn't exactly the same. Now, cycles are similar to circuits that we learned about in the electricity video. You probably remember looking at this. A circuit just means one time around, or one lap. Now, if you take the different forms of life we learned about and the word cycle and put them together, you get life cycles. The Earth is full of many different life cycles. We'll take a look at a few. But let's start with plants, because we glossed over them earlier. So let's get into plants. Try and control your excitement. I'm excited too. But let's start at the beginning with seeds. Now, you might recognize seeds from shopping. They come in these little packets. And we see many in nature, like these dandelion seeds being blown by the wind and spreading around to grow new plants. Some other local favorites include acorns from oak trees, you can find them around right now, and pine cones from pine trees and other evergreens. Thanks to some experiments by other scientists using time-lapse, we can watch the seeds grow up close, much faster than it happens in nature. Let's take a look. If we focus on a seed underground, we can see that the roots actually start growing first. You can see this pea seed is working its roots through the blue gravel while it sends up a shoot up to the top. Right now, the seed is living off of food stored inside, because until it gets its leaves open into the sunlight, it can't make its own food. Here's a sunflower growing from seed. See if you notice anything different about it compared to the other plants. Here we get to see the bud of the flower starting to grow and getting ready to open. Now we've seen seeds grow, but where do they come from? Now seeds come in many varieties, like the one shown here, and most seeds start with a flower, but not all flowers look like the flowers we know. Many of the flowers need help from pollinators, insects that carry pollen from flower to flower to help them grow and make new seeds. Not all flowers do, but most. Here you can see a bee on a sunflower collecting nectar and moving pollen around, helping the sunflower develop its seeds. The sunflower seeds form right inside the flower, but other plants grow fruit. The fruit grows on the same spot that the flower was. The seeds are stored inside the fruit. This helps the seeds make it to new places. Here's some seeds inside a tropical fruit. You might not recognize this, but this is a cacao pod, so we get cocoa beans from, which we turn into chocolate. Now, seeds spread many ways. We saw the wind moving the dandelion seeds around earlier, but there are many other ways that we'll look into in a future video. Here are just a few. After the flower has made its seeds, and the seeds have spread, the rest of the plant continues to go on through its seasonal changes, often without the flower, just like the dandelion you see here. Here's an apple tree going through its much longer life cycle through all the different seasons. When we're farming, we're just taking advantage of different parts of the life cycle and harvesting the plants when we want them and spreading the seeds out to help them grow. How we grow plants can look very different than how they grow in nature. They still grow through the same life cycle, but we control where the seeds land, and we often grow them in patterns that make them much easier to pick and take care of. Then when their life cycle ends, we plow them back in to help the next one. So around the world, there are many different places where plants grow. They all go through life cycles, whether there's hardly any water like a desert, or lots of water like a reef, or somewhere in the middle like the forest we know. Plants will go through their life cycles. Next time, we're going to check out the parts of a plant in a little bit more detail, and we'll look at how plants grow in different places. But in the meantime, here's some other videos that you might like to try out. Have a great day.